Welcome to Experiments in Happiness with Michelle Lemus, the podcast for high-achieving women who've checked all the boxes but still feel something's missing.
Welcome back to Experiments in Happiness, where we stop waiting for happiness to magically appear and start testing what actually creates it. I'm your host, Michelle Lemus, and today we're diving into one of the most uncomfortable yet freeing experiments I've ever done in my life. It's called the No Experiment. And trust me, it's a lot harder and a lot more powerful than it sounds. There was a time when my calendar looked like a war zone, meetings stacked back to back, projects I didn't even remember agreeing to, social events I had no energy for. Half the time I was showing up out of guilt, not desire. And the funny part, everyone thought I was thriving. The successful one. The woman who could handle it all. But behind the scenes, I was bone tired. Not just physically tired, I was soul tired. Every time I said yes to something I didn't want, I was really saying no to myself. That's something I didn't fully understand until much later. Because when you're in it, it just feels like being responsible or being a good person. You don't realize you're trading your peace for approval. Here's the truth. I used to think saying yes was what made me good. A good partner, a good friend, a good employee, a good mom. It was my reflex, the good girl reflex. You know the one, where your mouth says, of course, even though your gut is screaming, please don't. I built my identity around being dependable, the one people could count on, and it worked. For them, but not for me. I remember agreeing to bake cookies for a fundraiser I didn't care about, taking on a quick project that turned into weeks of late nights, saying yes to networking dinners that made me want to crawl under my desk. Then I'd come home resentful and confused. Why was I angry? Why did I feel drained after doing the right thing? It took me a long time to realize I wasn't tired from doing too much. I was tired from doing too much of what didn't matter to me. My breaking point came on an ordinary Tuesday. A colleague had dropped the ball on a project and asked if I could jump in just this once. You know that phrase, just this once? It's never once. My instinct screamed no. But my people pleaser smiled and said yes. And that yes became a slow unraveling. Late nights, stress headaches, missed dinners with my kids. Until one afternoon, I found myself staring blankly at my screen, realizing something that hit me like a brick. I created this chaos. No one was forcing me. I was the one handing out my time like it was free candy. That moment was equal parts devastating and liberating. Because if I created it, I could also change it. So I started small. I decided to run an experiment, 1 week of intentional no's. I called it the No Experiment. I know, not a very creative title, but stay with me here. The No Experiment was simple. Before agreeing to anything, I had to check in with myself. I'd ask 3 simple questions. Do I actually want this? Will this matter to me in a month? Am I saying yes because I mean it or because I feel guilty? Simple questions, hard answers. The first few no's were awkward. My voice shook. I over-explained. I even apologized for saying no because that reflex runs deep. But something magical happened. No one hated me. The world didn't fall apart. And for the first time in forever, I could breathe. Don't get me wrong, I spent way too many hours after I said no, worried that the world was falling apart and that people secretly hated me. But then, that week changed everything. Because it wasn't really about saying no, it was about reclaiming my right to choose. When you start saying no to the things you don't want, something powerful happens. You make space for what you do want. I started filling that space with things that brought me back to life. Slow mornings, relaxing on the back porch with my dogs, writing, actual rest, not Netflix with guilt. And here's the surprise. Once I stopped trying to please everyone else, I became better at everything else. More focused, more present, more me. Because no isn't rejection. It's a reset. It's the medicine women like us, women who've been running on obligation, have been needing for far too long. Let's talk about why this is so hard. We're conditioned from an early age to associate no with disappointment, disappointing others, being selfish, being difficult. So we grow into women who overextend ourselves to keep everyone else comfortable, even if it costs us our own peace. Psychologically, this taps into something called approval conditioning. It's that little dopamine hit you get when someone smiles and says, "Thank you so much, you're amazing." And without realizing it, you start chasing that feeling, even when it burns you out. But here's the thing: peace doesn't come from being liked, it comes from being aligned. Saying no isn't rejection, it's protection. It protects your energy, your priorities, your sanity. And that's not selfish, that's self respect. So let's make this practical. If you've been nodding along, here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, try your own no experiment. Every time someone asks for your time, energy, or attention, pause. Take one deep breath before responding. Listen to your body. If your shoulders tense, if your stomach flips, if your gut says, ugh, that's your answer. That's a no. You don't need to justify it. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You owe yourself peace. You can say, I don't have capacity for that right now. That sounds great, but it's a no for me this time. Or my personal favorite, I need to pass on this one. Short, respectful, done. Because every no you give to something misaligned is a yes to something that matters: your rest, your joy, your family, your freedom. When I started living this way, something else shifted. The people around me did too. The people in my life learned that no doesn't mean I don't care. It means I care enough to do this right. That's the ripple effect of living in alignment. You stop performing and you start leading by example. People respect the boundaries you enforce, not the ones you explain. So let me ask you something. Where in your life are you still saying yes when your heart is whispering no? Is it the volunteer role you dread? The friendship that drains you? The quick favor that always turns into 3 weeks of chaos? What would happen if, just for this week, you gave yourself permission to say no? No to guilt, no to obligation, no to pretending you're fine when you're not, and yes to you, because you've already proven you can handle it all. Now it's time to prove that you don't have to. This has been Experiments in Happiness. If this episode resonated, take a screenshot, share it on LinkedIn, and tag me. I'd love to hear what your no experiment looks like this week. Until next time. Protect your peace, honor your no, and say yes only to the things that truly light you up.
Thanks for listening to Experiments in Happiness. You can find more tools and resources at experimentsinhappiness.com.